Today on the Daily Meditation, we will be discussing living with balance with our very special guest, Michelle Baldino from Bulldog Yoga Studio. Michelle, thank you for coming on the show today. I wonder if you could briefly introduce yourself to our listeners.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. My name is Michelle Baldino. I am a full-time yoga instructor and studio manager outside of the Philadelphia area of Pennsylvania at Bulldog Yoga. I'm also a mom of two teenagers, which is very thrilling. And I've been teaching since 2012. So this is my 10th year of teaching yoga. So yeah. It's a little bit about me.
Awesome. So I'd like to start with a fun question. What is your favorite quote and why?
So I have this quote by Rumi that's at the bottom of my email that I've honestly had for so many years, I can't remember, but it is, let yourself be silently drawn by the stronger pull of what you really love.
And what do you like about that Rumi quote? What does it mean to you?
It means that in moments of doubt or fear, that as long as you're in tune with your heart and what your intention is, you are heading in the right direction. And you have to do whatever you can do to kind of quiet those internal, external voices that are telling you to go in a different direction, and just keep on following your heart or your intuition.
Following your heart or your intuition, certainly a very important thing, something that a lot of people struggle with, which I think is understandable in today's society, because of course we have all these pressures pulling at us from here and there.
Right.
It can be difficult to find the time to connect with your own passion and your own purpose.
Yeah. I remember hearing it. I was probably maybe halfway through my first yoga teacher training, and I was really considering teaching full time. I didn't know going into yoga teacher training if I would become a yoga teacher. It was just something that I really enjoyed doing and wanted to know more of. And when I really started talking to family members and friends about, leaving the house for the first time, because I had two very small children, and taking on yoga as a job, they were like, is that a real job? Which some people still to this day view like it as not maybe so much a real job, which is neither here nor there. I won't get into all of that, but I just have to keep on coming back to this feeling that I had this urge that, how lucky to do something and call it a job. It's certainly a career to me that I really love doing and provide this beautiful service for people. So
now you specialize in Yin yoga and Vinyasa. A lot of our listeners will be aware of Yin and Vinyasa, but some may not. Could you briefly kind of explain what is different about those two specific styles, about Yin and about Vinyasa?
Sure. So in very simple terms, Vinyasa yoga is a sort of faster paced yoga practice where you're moving along with your breath. Basically, each movement has a breath match to it. So you can create a lot of heat internally to start, and then it goes outward from there. It's pretty repetitive. You'll move through what we call warrior passes or some sun salutes to start warming up the body. And you don't have a ton of time in a typical Vinyasa class to maybe after a little warm up to really sit in poses for a long amount of time, which is what Yin does. So Yin is the polar opposite, if we're looking at a yoga spectrum of Vinyasa. It is long, deep holds, traditionally done either on your belly or your back or in a low lunge. You're really low and grounded the entire practice. And you're holding poses anywhere from 2 minutes up to upwards of 10 minutes. You can get a really nice, yummy Shavasana I like to give 20 minutes at the end of teaching Yin class. So you really have all this extra time to go in. and notice the subtleties, the shifting that's happening in the body, and how to remain present with them, right? Because we can do a lot of kind of numbing or faking if we're moving really fast all the time. We don't get to as much time to really focus and pay attention and go in. So that's what I love about the yin practice. But I also like to flow. So that's why I teach and practice both.
Yeah, I know yin is becoming a lot more popular these days. In general, integrated body mind training is becoming a lot more popular, and yin is certainly a big part of that. So, do you advise doing both vinyasa and yin, or is one correct for one type of person, and the other correct for another type of person, or?
I think yin is available for everybody. And I know that's hard for a lot of people to accept. A lot of people want to move 190 miles a minute all the time, right? Particularly in the society that we're a part of. Even if they're not even really getting anywhere, they just want to go, go, go. So yin is a great way, like I said, to slow down, to pay more attention and actively try to practice being present. I think both are available for everyone. The only thing that should be considered when you're doing vinyasa practice is, if you have any injuries or there's any limitations in their body that might not be great over time to be repeating, on your joints, or if you're rehabbing from a hip replacement or knee surgery, low back stuff, you just want to be really, really careful. So I'm always constantly driving to students how important it is to do both. Really, to what we're talking about today, to find balance. Both are super, super beneficial. And just because yin yoga involves some more holds and staying low doesn't mean it's easy. Right? You can really start to notice your mind wandering. You want to leave. It's harder to stay present yoga mat, or you can be feeling a whole lot more in the body that you don't always get to pay attention to because you're generally moving faster. So it can really be kind of a challenging practice, even if you're kind of in these deeper, stretchier holds.
So aside from practicing yin and vinyasa, getting back to finding balance both on the mat and off of it, whatever advice can you give to people to find that internal sense of balance?
For me, I think I would tell people to start off really small, with just a few minutes a day to yourself. For me, particularly, it's first thing in the morning. I love to have a large chunk of time before the rest of the house wakes up. But that is a practice that I now have that lasts about 45 minutes to an hour, but it started off very small, maybe 5-10 minutes of sitting or doing some cat and cow stretches or coming into child's pose, just anything where you can get a little quiet and go in. If we kind of set up the expectation that we should be doing this for, 15, 20 minutes every day, it might be harder to do over a long period of time. So start off really small, 2-3 minutes in the morning or whenever you have a little bit of quiet time, even if you're just getting in your car before you turn it on or turn the radio on or your podcast that you're listening to, just give yourself a couple deep breaths and see how you feel afterwards. And those small little changes, you just want to kind of get more of that feeling that comes after it. So it builds from there.
So you've been teaching for a while. I think you said since 2012, correct me if I'm wrong. So I'm imagining that you must have seen quite a lot of changes in the people, well, both in yourself and in the people that you've worked with. Are there any real standout moments of personal transformation that you've witnessed, whether it be in yourself or in people that you've worked with?
Yeah, I mean, what I think is so fascinating 10 years into teaching is how much has changed, but how much has remained the same. I'm thinking back on my days as a newer yogi before I even became a yoga teacher and how it was such a physical practice for me. And that's what I see in students all the time. You know, it kind of starts on toning or stretching or just wanting more flexibility or strength somewhere in the body. And the more they come back onto their mats, there's a shift that happens. So I remember for myself, several years ago, I was actually on a yoga retreat, having this experience where I sort of realized how much I was trying to control in my life, control my yoga practice, achieve, really for approval, all these like external things, right? And it was 5 days of a yoga, mantra, and movement retreat. And I want to say this is maybe day 3 or 4. And we had been really diving into these deeper practices, which was relatively new for me. Chanting, opening up my throat chakra is so uncomfortable at first. And we did this yoga practice, and it was incredibly simple. It was, relatively slow movement, nothing super challenging. And my whole body was like shaking. And I didn't even really know why, but I kept on trying to work my way through this discomfort. And then I finally gave up. I was like, I mean, I can't stop this shaking. Maybe I just need to like have a seat for a minute. And as soon as I did, this very gorgeous song started playing, and I just like broke down and I was crying. And it took me a little while to figure out why I was just like unleashing all of this emotion. And after like a massive headache that came from all the tears, I realized it was because I was just always gripping and trying to achieve. And something that I was really loving and enjoying became something for everybody else. And it's this transformation that really shifted me as a yoga teacher and student. I stopped practicing trying to look like the best yoga student in the room. And I stopped teaching trying to sound like some other teacher. It was like all of that was just getting in my own way of offering this practice from my true and authentic self. And I see that with students, on different, maybe sometimes more subtle levels, but maybe it's in a vinyasa class and they're not taking every vinyasa offered. They're just holding a down dog. And then they're feeling and looking calmer leaving class, as opposed to, okay, that was so good. Now I'm going to run 5 miles and I'll see you guys later, blah, blah, blah. Like still going so fast from one thing to the other. I find those shifts happening all the time. It's really, really incredible to witness.
Yeah, I think we're very fortunate to be in a position to be teaching these things that we're very passionate about. Myself as a meditation teacher, and of course you as a yoga teacher. So one thing I do like to do in each episode, I like to give our listeners a quick 5-minute exercise that they can do at home. Mm-hmm. Now, bearing in mind, some of our listeners may not be master yogis, so they're not going to want to do a headstand for 5 minutes.
Neither do I.
Some of them might. I don't know. I personally don't. But anyway, what is a quick kind of 5-minute exercise that people of all levels can do at home towards this aim of finding balance?
I love this question. So I'm going to suggest that this can be done from a seated position. Like I'm just sitting here on a cushion, but you can also plant your feet to the floor and be seated in a chair. So hopefully somewhat of a chair that makes you feel like you're connected with your sitting bones and your spine. So perhaps not a sofa. And so I'm actually going to bring my feet to the floor. I like to just, for a few breaths, just sweep my arms nice and high overhead, lower them back down. And then eventually I'll hold my arms up and take a spinal twist, bringing one hand to the outside of the opposite knee. Slowly work my way into the twist, kind of using more arms than torso to find a gentle opening through the spine and really the rib cage and the heart. I'll do the same thing on the other side. And then I'll kind of do a few very gentle, small neck rolls in each direction. And I like to, just because it makes me stay alert, look over each shoulder and then look up and look down and come back to center, hold for maybe a full breath cycle, and do the same thing a few times. It's super simple, like super accessible. If I have a little bit more time, I'm probably going to come to all fours and do a few rounds of cat and cow and land in child's pose. And that's part of my morning practice before I really sit in meditation. And it just feels really good.
Yeah. It's funny that you should mention like doing simple exercises like that. You really remind me of a time in my life when I hadn't been exercising for a long time. And I feel like I speak for a lot of people here, where if you're not in shape, because of the society we live on, with all this social media and stuff and seeing people who are constantly perfect, it can be difficult to just accept the fact that you kind of have to start from step one. I remember when I started getting back into shape, when I actually finally started exercising from a point of being really unfit, I literally just said to myself, I'm just going to go for a walk. I don't care that it's not a workout. I don't care that I'm not like Dwayne Johnson or something, right? I'm just going to go for a walk, and that'll do for today. And then maybe tomorrow I can go for another walk. And then the day after that, maybe I can start jogging or something. Sometimes sometimes just doing a really small exercise, even though like it doesn't make a huge difference to your body, but to your mind, just the fact that you've started exercising can be that real moment of transformation, I feel.
Oh, that's so true. It's like what we were saying earlier about finding balance, starting really small and building from there. And I think it's a really important reminder. I need it just as much as everybody else. And I share it with my kids often. It's like, it's never too late to start. Ever. No matter what you want to do. You want to start playing the piano tomorrow? You want to run a 5K? Okay. All you have to do is start. And that doesn't mean you're going to run the whole 5K or play a master symphony day one, but you start and you just let it build from there.
My cat is calling me. He doesn't understand interviews and things. So here he is. Hello. Alrighty. So thank you for all this insight and information that you've provided us with. I am sure with all the tips and everything that you've shared, that our listeners are certainly going to want to know more about you, to know more about your work and Bulldog Yoga Studio. How should they get in contact with you? Via social media, via your website?
So truth be told, I don't love social media a ton. So the best way to really find me and to learn about my, history as a yoga teacher and how to practice with me is by going to bulldogyoga.com or bulldogyogaonline.com. That's our online studio where no matter where you live in the world, you can find me on a library full of different types of classes, everything from the yin to the more vinyasa flow type of stuff. I mean, I am on social media. I just don't go on it very regularly. So you can find me there at Michelle Baldino on Instagram.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Michelle, for all your insights today. I'm sorry, I'm a bit distracted because I'm cuddling my cat right now, and he's just so beautiful.
That's why we do yoga and meditate, right? Just to get that look on our face all the time.
So thank you so much for coming on the show today. Everybody remember to practice the simple exercises that Michelle has given you. And again, I just want to reiterate, if you haven't worked out for a while and you're feeling, I don't know, you're kind of feeling down and a bit self-conscious about it, just start. Just take 5 minutes and go for a walk or do the stretches that Michelle's given you. Because in my experience, as soon as you just take one step forward, even if it's just a tiny step forward, then you start getting momentum. Once you get momentum, then you're heading in the right direction to get where you want to go. It's all about taking those first few steps just to start gaining momentum. Again, thank you to Michelle for her wonderful insight. And until next time, remember to subscribe and stay sensational.